Please support the bar by subscribe, and sharing my cast. Follow my social media at Facebook, Instagram, Gab, Parler, BitChute, YouTube, DLive, Twitch, CloutHub, and Rumble, or join my Subscribe Star. Make a donation by clicking on the links on the description box. I am a listener-supported show, so any of the above is greatly appreciated. Help me grow and spread the truth, since the mainstream media obviously does not want to support truth. All links are listed on the description box. God bless you and enjoy.
Welcome to the Speak Uneasy, a safe space where cancel culture does not exist, because we are in a different prohibition era.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Speak Uneasy with your host, me, the bartender. So tonight's random read is going to come off the book of Jeremiah chapter 37 verses 1 through 5, Zedekiah's appeal for intercession. And the king Zedekiah, the son of Josiah, reigned instead of Coniah, the son of Jehoiakim, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, made king in the land of Judah. But neither he nor his servants nor the people of the land did hearken unto the words of the Lord, which he spake by the prophet Jeremiah. And Zedekiah the king sent Jehukal, the son of Shelemiah, and Zephiah, the son of Maaseiah. I'm killing these names. I'm sorry. The priest to the prophet Jeremiah, saying, Pray now unto the Lord our God for us. Now Jeremiah came in and went out among the people, for they had not put him into prison. Then Pharaoh's army was come forth out of Egypt. And when the Chaldeans that besieged Jerusalem heard tidings of them, they departed from Jerusalem. Once again, that comes from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 37, verses 1 through 5. Zedekiah's appeal for intercession. Now, before I go on my take on this read, I apologize for butchering these names. These are very difficult names for me to pronounce. Now, what I got from this read, there's only a portion of this read. There's only a portion of this read that I can kind of get a message from, which would be praying unto the Lord our God for us. Okay, that is from verse number 3. It reads here, and Zedekiah the king sent Jehukal, the son of Shelemiah, and Zephaniah, the son of Maaseiah, the priest of the prophet Jeremiah, saying, Pray now unto the Lord our God for us. Now, I'm not really familiar about the whole story about this, but what I've gathered here, just from the ending of that verse, was God telling me to tell you to pray to God our Lord for us. We are in need of more prayer. I'm noticing a lot of things happening around the world. Japan just had an earthquake a few days ago. And the state that I'm living in right now, it's snowing here and there's ice and the weather is just so cold. And in this state, it's unheard of. So there are natural things happening, things of nature happening. I shouldn't say natural stuff because this weather here is not natural. And once again, Japan, the region, Fukushima, it got hit again with an earthquake. Now, there's things happening around the world, not to mention the fact that the state of America right now is kind of broken, right? So we need more prayer. We need more healing for ourselves. We need to establish that relationship with God. This is God giving messages through me to tell us to pray more and build that relationship with Him. I try to do my best every day. I try. I'm not a vindictive person. I don't think I'm evil. I do have faults. But my heart, what's in my heart, I know this is the third time saying it, but what's in my heart is my intentions are for good. Like, I really want to be able to love people. I don't go out there harming people just for harming them. I don't even go out to harm people at all. I may defend myself, but overall, I want to be able to get along and love people. It's a difficult thing sometimes, but we have to strive for that, right? There's way too much negativity. There's just way too much stuff that happened, especially last year, which divided us so much that the only thing to conquer all that hate is love. And I'm not talking about fake love, you know? I'm talking about having an actual relationship where we are able to pick each other up. Because the truth is, we're all down right now. All of us. It doesn't matter where in your life you're at. You may seem successful. But if your fellow person is not up to par, then I don't think you're up. I honestly think you're up when you start uplifting people so then we all can get up. And that's just the way I see things. So, that's my take on the random read for the night. And once again, I've had a rough work week. But every time I go to work, first off, I'm going to a state that I totally hate. Next off, I'm at a job that I am not happy at. But yet I do it because that's what a responsible man does for his tribe. He makes that sacrifice to provide for his family. And that's what I do. So, tonight, no cocktail. No cocktail. We're going to drink this straight up today. Because it's been one of those weeks and the news has just been bombarded with a lot of very, very frustrating things. Part of it is the earthquake in Japan, because I do have family members out there. Another thing is the weather here in this state that I live in. Texas, it is frozen. It is completely frozen, and it's 12 degrees here tonight. Snowing. It's crazy. And this is not your typical weather for Texas, especially in the area that I'm at. So tonight, I have myself a bottle of Suntory, the Hakushu 12 years single malt Japanese whiskey. Now, little information about this before I pour and give you my take on it. Mountain Forest Distillery. This is straight from Suntory.com. Nestled in the vast forest of coexisting with nature at the foot of southern Japan Alps, the Hakushu Distillery continues to create a wide variety of unique whiskeys. It is also known as Mountain Forest Distillery, surrounded by bountiful forest of Hakushu. In search for new whiskeys. In the quest to create a malt whiskey completely different from Yamazaki Distillery, our whiskey makers kept searching for the best water for mashing. After looking all over the country, they came across Hakushu, one of the most famous water areas in Japan. In 1973, exactly half a century after the birth of the first Japanese malt whiskey distillery, Suntory established its second malt whiskey distillery, Hakushu. Making a long journey through the mountains in the southern Alps, the clear underground water in Hakushu is soft, sharp in taste, and contains the right amount of minerals. Whiskey mashed using this water has a pleasant and gentle flavor, quite different from the deep, florid taste of Yamazaki. With the setting up of Hakushu Distillery, Suntory was now able to create even more wide variety of whiskeys. Diverse whiskey making. Whiskey making at Hakushu Distillery is notable for its wide variety of whiskeys, unique at a global level. In the fermentation process, we use only high-quality heat-preserving wooden washbacks, setting to work lactobacillus and other naturally occurring conditions in the distillery, thereby creating a flavor unique to Hakushu. Between different sizes and shapes of pot stills in the distillation process, and between various kinds of casks in the maturation process, creating a highly diverse variety of whiskeys at every step of the process from mashing through fermentation, distillation, and maturation. Okay. So that's a little information on Hakushu. Now, I am going to drink this neat. Okay? So let's go ahead and give this bottle an open and pour about 2.5 to 3 ounces in my whiskey glass. Okay. We're just free pouring that. Ooh. Okay. So on the nose, flowery notes. Very, very flowery notes. Getting a little fruity on the nose as well. It's very, very, very fruity. Very fruity. Very flowery. As far as the color goes, it's like a light golden color. It's not like bourbon where it's kind of brownish. This is like a golden color. Okay. Now for the taste. Okay. So on the taste, it's very flowery. I can taste some cherry. Take another sip. Okay, it's getting more sweeter. Like a almost like a plum, but there's also a bit of there's a bit of there's a bit of what's the word I'm looking for? Peat. There's a bit of peat in there. So the notes that I got was cherry. The first thing I got was cherry. And on the second swig was kind of like a plum. It was flowery too. Yeah, I'm getting fruity notes on that one. Reason why I chose this today was because we're gonna be talking about the earthquake that happened in Japan, but not from the earthquake from a few days ago. I'm gonna be talking about the earthquake that happened back in 2011. Not so much for the earthquake, but there's special people that I want to mention later on the show, and maybe we can learn something from these special people who are called the Fukushima 50. So this is to my family in Japan, and I'm not talking about just my family's, not only my family, my in-laws, but I'm talking about everybody in Japan I consider family. Here's to them. Kampai. And this is the Hakushu 12 Neat. And now for the show. So today we're going to talk about a couple things. One of which, an event that happened a few days ago in Japan that I want to get into. But before we get into that, if people don't know already, there was a big earthquake in Fukushima, Japan a few days ago. And I want to get into that. But before we do, there's another topic of interest that I have today. And I thought it was pretty interesting. Now, the way I'm going to break this down is that, first off, I am a straight male. And I do have struggles with certain desires every single day. And it is a very tough thing to have to deal with every day. Okay? And I'm going to talk about the porn industry. We are living in times where many people have lost their jobs and their backs are against the wall, and they're getting into certain industries out there in order for them to make money. And they've found sites like OnlyFans or Snapchat and started making videos and making money off of them, without realizing what the true consequences to that is. And I'm not being judgmental, okay? I do have opinions about porn, but at the same time, I myself have struggles. So it's an internal battle for me, because, like I said, I have these struggles. I was addicted to it before, and even to this day, I don't watch porn as much as I used to. but I want to get off of it. I really do. Because being older and having all sorts of different types of spiritual experiences, I really, really want to walk in the same road as Christ did. And I want to be able to keep my moral values as well. But this is one thing that makes me, this is one of many things that makes me imperfect, is having to struggle with sex or porn. Okay? And I'm going to be straight up about this. There's a reason why I'm not being judgmental, is because, how can I judge one thing and then do the opposite? So what I'm trying to explain to you is that I have struggles with watching these things, So there's an article here by the Federalist, which was published on February 13th of this year. And the article is by Emily Jashinsky. And it reads, ABC News runs shamefully unbalanced special on OnlyFans porn platform. ABC News dedicated ample resources to producing its new social report on OnlyFans. Given the porn platform's massive popularity, ABC was wise to investigate it. The result of the investigation, however, is a journalistic abomination that endorses sex work without any serious pushback, framing OnlyFans as a feminist achievement. Not only is the report a shameless breach of journalistic neutrality, it's an unqualified endorsement of do-it-yourself pornography. And in the midst of a bad economy, helping OnlyFans capitalize on working-class desperation by enabling and encouraging more and more people to prostitute themselves from the comfort of their own homes. The internet is forever, and snap decisions made to pay rent don't just fade away. OnlyFans normalizes and proliferates pornography, making it easy for members of the public to create and sell pornographic pictures and videos of themselves, all of which I think should be perfectly legal, even as it remains immoral. Many creators, like the young people profiled in ABC's report, make enough money on the platform to live very comfortably. As ABC rightly points out, OnlyFans is not just for porn. Some creators use it for different reasons. But, of course, OnlyFans is a hub for people who want to make money by creating their own pornographic content. It gives all of us the ability to prostitute ourselves at the touch of a button. ABC clearly frames that as empowerment. The featured experts, which include academics and activists and comedian Nikki Glaser, all largely agree on this point. That's unfortunate not only because it's a bad perspective, but because plenty of people on both the left and the right have strong counter arguments to offer. The only real counterpoint raised in the report is that OnlyFans creators can subject themselves to harassment, and that the platform allows privileged celebrities to build their brands at a cost to everyday publishers. One of the creators says he won't go full nude to avoid losing out on future jobs. There's really no problem with ABC featuring any of these people, but to do so without also featuring any progressive or conservative voices willing to say OnlyFans and pornography more broadly is exploitive and dangerous is just bad journalism. Speaking of which, one of the OnlyFans creators profiled in the documentary is young mechanic Kristen Vaughn. Vaughn made headlines last spring after she was fired from Don Air's Honda in Fort Wayne. I think that's Indiana. Vaughn claims she was fired for having an OnlyFans page. A sympathetic BuzzFeed news story at the time buried the relevant detail that Vaughn was fired after taking pictures for OnlyFans in her work uniform and in the company restroom nearly 30 paragraphs deep. ABC's special didn't even mention that. The report skeptically quoted a statement from the dealership asserting that Vaughn violated their policies, but totally omitted the obvious way she may have done that. Let's see. When I emailed ABC News to ask why they left that information out of the report, the network never responded. Here are other questions they declined to answer. Why did the program feature zero perspectives against the pornographic work OnlyFans facilitates and monetizes? There are plenty of counter arguments from both the feminist perspective and the conservative perspective. Why was there little to no discussion of exploitation or the mounting debate over porn addiction? Did the journalists involved in producing this program talk to any former porn stars who regret their work or have suffered physically or psychologically because of it? Why not mention how wealthy tech entrepreneurs are getting rich off the bodies of working class people like Vaughn? The last question is what makes this story particularly depressing. Wealthy elites love normalizing ostensibly progressive ideas, many of which they would never personally engage in, by wrapping them in intellectual babble. But they have no perspective or regard for how that normalization affects the broader culture, where impressionable kids and disfranchised people are looking for venues to make easy money and don't have time to navel gaze on the nature of sexual empowerment or read Judith Butler. Vaughn and her did-it-yourself pornography peers have agency. They are in charge of their own lives. They are capable of making informed decisions. That does not, however, mean those decisions were entirely uninfluenced by the facile secularism promulgated by elites. ABC News is not Salon. Fans only is not uncontroversial or a low-stake issue. Nevertheless, tasked with the job of producing a major report on the platform, ABC's team presented a sympathetically with virtually no balance at all. Okay. So this article is pointed more towards the fairness of the report. My focus is going to be on another effect on people mentally here. And I'm not trying to I'm not going to give my opinion based on me being a so-called expert. I mean, let's face it, all of us in our lives have seen porn once or maybe twice or maybe multiple times. I mean, I ain't going to lie. I've watched porn many a times. I don't watch it as much as I used to. At one point I was very, very addicted to it. And I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of people out there who don't who don't say it. I'm pretty sure that the percentage of porn addicts are pretty high out there, or even sex addicts, especially dudes, you know? So here's my take on it. And I'm trying to be as fair as I can about this because, like I said, I want to be able to walk more in the road of Christ. And I know being promiscuous with sex and even watching pornography is not a good thing. I know that. I know it's not a good thing, right? But And I'm not trying to justify me watching porn as something just because I'm human. It's okay for me, or just because I ask for forgiveness from God often doesn't cover the fact that it's still wrong. Okay? I deal with this problem on a daily basis. I do. And here's my opinion about it. There are many people out there, I understand, that are beginning to lose jobs and are desperate to find ways of making money. And ideally, they're doing it in a way where it's very easy for them to make plenty of money. But here's where the problem comes into play, okay? How much of yourself are you willing to sell? How much of yourself are you willing to sell? Ask yourself that question. And I'm not talking about my listeners, unless you're in the sex industry, you know. This is a very difficult thing for me to talk about. Because here I am talking about how much of it, you know, and I deal with it too. But like I said, I'm trying to completely get this out of my life. And I think part of me trying to get it out of my life is to put myself out there to have this discussion with you people. Because I you know, maybe I'm not the only one having to deal with this. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people out there who deals with this, who are having that internal battle within themselves because they want to live on the road of Christ, but yet they have these things that are kind of holding them back to be successful in establishing a great relationship with the Lord. But I'm going to go back to my question. I mean, how much of yourself are you willing to sell? And I'm not just talking about your body. I'm talking about your morality as well. How much of yourself are you willing to sell? And is it worth it? You know, it's like a fork in the road. What do you do? I understand people go through struggles. But have you asked yourself too at the same time? Because I've been through struggles myself. And I could have easily taken other roads of being easy in order for me to make plenty of, you know, money. There are many other roads I could have taken, but I didn't. Maybe that's the struggle that's needed for people to mature and grow. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there as a possibility that maybe it's something that you need to go through. And people shouldn't hide away from that. This is a very hard thing to talk about, to be honest. You know, and having to struggle with this on a personal level too it's not easy. You know, I don't know what to do. And I ask God every day, you know, I ask him every day to please give me the strength to fight, you know, give me the strength to fight this. Because I truly do want to live in the road of Christ. I really do. I want to be able to put my name in the book of life and be able to make it up there. So this is a hard thing to talk about. You know? And I don't want to be judgmental. And I don't know what people are going through in their lives as well, that they really have to resort to something like this in order for them to get paid. I don't know what's going on in their lives. I don't even know how they were even, like, what kind of stuff they've gone through as kids. Maybe they were abused. That's another factor that people be like, especially girls, they become promiscuous because they were abused, or they, quote, have daddy issues. It's a hard thing, you know? Nobody wants to see their child do something like this. And I did watch the ABC report on this, and the mother of I mean, when does the morality, I mean, at what price is your morality going to be gone? I mean, that's probably one of the reasons why this country is in the state it is right now. This is one avenue of being in a godless society. This really is one avenue of it. Is sex. And it's not an easy topic to talk about. You know, on one hand, they say it's a bad thing. On the other hand, you're having to struggle with watching pornography. And I'm trying to stay as neutral as I can on this topic. And I like I said, I don't know what people are going through mentally to have them even end up doing something like this. This is a very difficult thing, because this opens up to other things too. It opens up to when people are in this industry, their personal life gets affected, because you have these people who become fans of them, and they have a different outlook on the person they are as opposed to who they really are. And this is just my opinion. When these people who have these OnlyFans accounts that are putting out content, they're playing a very dangerous game, because what they're doing is they're personalizing whatever content they're putting out to an individual person. So you're beginning to give that person a sense of some kind of a relationship that's really non-existent. And then when you guys actually meet in person, they're going to expect something of you. And that's a very dangerous game to play. You know? But if these people want to continue to do work like that, then, let them be. And I'm not going to say anything good or bad about it. I'm staying as neutral as I can. But you really got to think of what you're really getting yourself into. And I'm only thinking about the safety part of being a content creator on these platforms. You have to think about the safety of that part, because many people watch porn. Even you as the listener might be saying, "Oh, I don't watch it." The BS. You have watched it once in your life, at least once. And I know a lot of people out there do watch it. But I wanted to talk about this, because this is one thing I struggle with as well. And I really hate to see people desperate and take the easiest route out. Be part of life, okay? And this is what I've learned as I was growing, okay? This is not the answer. This is what I'm about to say is not the answer for anything, or I'm not giving you advice or anything like that. This is strictly what I've learned in my life. Struggles are a necessary thing you have to go through. You have to. Because those are the moments of your life that actually help you grow. There is nothing wrong with making mistakes. There is nothing wrong with going through struggle with many mistakes. There really is not. And we need to stop teaching our children that making mistakes is a bad thing. It really isn't. It's okay to fall on your face every once in a while in life, because life is not fair. Life throws you a lot of curveballs. You have to be resilient enough to change and make adjustments and not find the quote easy way out. And also questions pop up, especially for women, right? Single parent women, women that have kids and they have no man in their life to help raise the kid. And questions always arise like, well, what if your son or your daughter finds out about what you do? That's where my question comes into play when I ask, how much of yourself are you willing to sell? Are you willing to totally let all your moral values go out the window? I have no opinion on that. I'm just merely asking a question. I mean, don't you think that the reason why you're a single mom, maybe doing something like that is a problem, which may make your son feel that it's okay to look at women in a certain way and just, do their deed and leave? I don't know. I certainly don't want something like that for my daughter. Sometimes you got to eat crow. You got to go through the struggle. There's no way around the storm sometimes. A lot of people are lacking that toughness. They're lacking that sense of taking upon a challenge in their life and always wanting to find the easy way out. And I know part of it is our technology has brainwashed us into doing things like thinking that way too. Where the internet is just instantaneous. We want something right away, and it comes in a click of a button. Maybe we're just moving too fast. I don't know. But, like I asked, I mean, how much of yourself are you willing to sell? How much? So this is a tough subject. Probably this is like one of the subjects I need to have a co-host so I can bounce off ideas off of. Because for me, I'm trying to be as neutral as I can. And I know I keep repeating myself when I say that. But I like to hear different perspectives. I really do. If you're for something like that, I want to know why. If you're against something like that, I want to know why. I would say I'm in the middle of this because I don't think it's right on one hand, but on the other hand, I have this problem that my desires sometimes take over, and it's my desires that make me make the decision to watch these things. It's tough. It really is. I ain't gonna lie. It's tough. It's a tough thing. But I'm willing to open and have a discussion about it. I am so willing. Because I want to know. I want to know how I can wean off of this thing. So right now we're going to take a break. I hope that was an interesting topic. Maybe it made your mind think about what you thought about, that industry. I have nothing to say, and neither good or bad, nothing. I just, it sometimes it encroaches in somebody's own morality. And I know we have to have good morals in order for us to have a very good society. But over the years, because of the internet and the instant gratification we get off of the internet, because we have things at just a click of a button, I know things have become, we've started to lose God slowly. But I have been going through a lot of spiritual things, especially last year. And I really want to move towards that direction of improving myself so my name can be up in the book of life with God. And I'm hoping that my listeners will strive for the same thing. We have to. So once again, I know I'm blabbering a lot about this stuff. Once again, we're going to take a break. And when we get back, we'll talk about the next topic. So I'll see you in a bit. And welcome back from the break. So the next topic of discussion that I want to talk about has to do with the recent earthquake that Fukushima, Japan has gone through a few days ago. Apparently another big earthquake has hit Fukushima, and I want to discuss the earthquake. Not necessarily the earthquake that just happened, but the first earthquake that they went through back in 2011. I want to highlight this specific group of people because I think we've forgotten what happened. And I know although I live here in America, I have to tip my hat to the individuals from this particular incident back in 2011, and it just goes to show how much they're willing to put on the line for them to save their country back then in 2011. And I'm referring to the Fukushima 50. For those of you who are not aware of who the Fukushima 50 is, it is the 50 employees of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant who decided to stay in the power plant and help cool down the nuclear reactors when the power plant got hit by the tsunami after the big earthquake in Fukushima, Japan. That's pretty in a nutshell, that's who the Fukushima 50 are. And I want to revert back to these articles that I found from back in 2011 in regards to the incident, and also in regards to the Fukushima 50, because I honestly think that there's something to be learned about here from the Fukushima 50. Okay, so this first article that I've found, it's from Live Science, I think, livescience.com, and the article is written by Catherine Gammon, who is an Our Amazing Planet contributor. And this was written back in March 16th of 2011. So this was just recently, when I say recently, I'm not referring to the time now. I'm referring to the time between the incident and when this article was written. So the article reads, heroic Fukushima workers face staggering risks. In all likelihood, the nuclear crisis playing out in Japan would be far worse if not for a crew of 50 to 100 workers braving explosions, heat, and radiation. Little has been written or reported about these unnamed individuals, but their deeds are nothing short of heroic. Here, a look at the conditions they face as the struggle to hold off a catastrophe. The workers are most likely clad in a heavy protective suits with breathing apparatuses, said Michael Murray, a professor of nuclear physics at the University of Kansas. Protection can be uncomfortable. Typically, All skin is covered, thick gloves, helmets, and steel-toed boots. Of course, they all have individual dosimeters. Murray told Life's Little Mysteries, a sister site to Live Science. I remember wearing this stuff, and it is hot and irritating. Heat is just one of the problems of working alongside the reactor. New sources have said that the number of workers cycling through the damaged reactor has increased from 50 to 100. And the Japanese Health Ministry raised the maximum radiation dose for the workers from 100 to 250 millisieverts. I am not familiar with what the sievert count is, and I am not familiar with what level a human being can withstand. I think it is subjective of tolerance and all that stuff, but I'm just reading this article, and I have no idea what a sievert is. I don't know what the tolerance level of a human being is. I don't know what the danger range is for humans, so I'm just reading. Okay? John Lee, a professor of nuclear engineering at the University of Michigan, said that acceptable levels of radiation are typically much lower. 50 Is it milli? Yeah, it's millisieverts. 50 millisieverts per year. But this limit may be exceeded somewhat in emergency situations. It should be noted, however, that 250 millisieverts is not an unreasonable level of radiation. That dose equals 25 REMs, another measure of radiation. And it takes a dose of 500 REM to kill a person. Exposure to 25 REM is still a lot under normal circumstances, but under guidelines set by the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, these workers are not risking their lives. Kim Kierfort, another professor of nuclear engineering at the University of Michigan, have these professors even been out there? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. Said there are several radiation checkpoints in a place to protect the workers. When entering areas where one may become contaminated with radionuclides, protective clothing is worn which can be removed. The clothing becomes contaminated and not the person. The white suits will block most low-energy alpha radiation, but not higher-energy gamma radiation such as X-rays. To counter that, the workers would need to wear bulky lead shielding or should stand behind objects. Limiting exposure times is also effective. If high amounts of airborne radioactivity are present, workers may wear respirators or even carry their own air supplies on their backs like scuba divers. Those are called SCBAs. This prevents the radionuclides from entering the body, where they can remain and continue to expose the workers even after they have left the area. Kierfort said, "There are stationary radiation detectors throughout the plant, as well as portable radiation detectors that can be carried around by workers. There are also walk-through monitors to check for external contamination." Japan has reportedly been cycling workers through dangerous high radioactivity areas, which can minimize danger to them. The shorter the total amount of time at a point with high radiation dose rates, the smaller the dose, Kierfort said. Often, workers may be rotated through a job. In other words, the job may be completed by 10 workers, so each worker only gets 10% of the dose. This would keep worker doses below the threshold for health effects like acute radiation syndrome. Long-term health problems may depend on how quickly people are rotated through, Murray said. The workers who cleaned up after Chernobyl were rotated through fairly quickly and did not seem to suffer many excess cancers. This experience has provided epidemiologists useful data on radiation exposure, he said, adding that the nuclear crisis at the Fukushima plant is not yet on par with the Chernobyl disaster. Another way to minimize health risk is to send workers in quickly to observe an area and then scoot back out to the plant to plant the next move, according to Kierfot. Experts say that it's likely the workers continue to perform their dangerous jobs based on a sense of obligation and pride. This is very true with Japanese people, at least the old school Japanese people. And I know a thing or two about the Japanese culture. Perhaps even if it's not in their job contract. I believe the plant workers are performing heroic, valiant work right now at the Japanese plant, driven by a deep sense of obligation to the society, Lee said. I believe they perform the duties on a voluntary basis. Kierfot agreed. As contracts can be broken, each worker still involved is undoubtedly dedicated to doing their best to help the situation. It is their job, and they are doing it very professionally, she said. Murray added that his experience working with Japanese scientists left are lasting impressions of their strong sense of duty and social cohesion. These workers probably have already lost loved ones to the earthquake and tsunami, yet they stay, he said. Stress and lack of sleep may also be playing a role, although the number of workers was likely increased to reduce the amount of radiation each worker was exposed to. It could also help with the general fatigue and pressure of the situation. Fatigue, said Murray, may be the biggest foe. They are working in very stressful conditions, and I imagine that there are many mechanical and electrical issues that have to deal with while trying to keep water in the reactors and storage pools. It could be years before lasting effects of these workers' efforts are known, but Japan is a safer country for them. Once again, that was by livescience.com, and the person who wrote that was Catherine Gammon. And I am going to go to another article. This one was written, this came from theguardian.com. And let's see who was written. It doesn't even say who it was written by. Let's take a look, because I need to credit them for their work. It's their work. I'm just reading off what they've written down. I can't find somebody who wrote. I can't find the person who wrote it. But anyways, this comes from theguardian.com. Fukushima 50. We felt like kamikaze pilots ready to sacrifice everything. Dressed in a dark blue work jacket with his company motif stamped on his breast pocket, Atsufumi Yoshizawa does not look like a man who spent the best part of a year in the thick of a battle. Yet that is how he describes his time among the group of engineers, technicians, soldiers, and firefighters who risked their lives to remain at the heart of Japan's worst nuclear crisis. The international media named the Fukushima 50, although the actual number of workers who stayed to handle the triple meltdown at Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant ran into the hundreds. They became the heroes of the disaster. The world feted their bravery and selfless dedication, an antidote to the opprobrium being poured on Japan's hapless nuclear safety officials and politicians. But at home, almost all of the Fukushima 50 have remained anonymous. Some shun the spotlight, but many others fear reprisal as the public continues to grapple with the environmental and political fallout from the world's worst nuclear disaster since Chernobyl. I can't even read that. In a rare interview, Yoshizawa described how the crisis unfolded and why he does not consider himself a hero. When Japan's northeast coast was shaken by a magnitude 9.0, okay? 9.0 people. I have been through an 8.0, and the magnitude of that was outrageous. A 9.0 earthquake on the afternoon of March 11, 2011, Yoshizawa was certain of two things. He could not flee, and he would not die. The 54-year-old nuclear engineer was about to end his shift at Fukushima Daiichi when the first powerful jolt arrived. Violent swaying ensued, causing panels to crash from the ceiling. Yoshizawa, who was in a corridor outside the plant's main control room, was forced to crouch on the floor before talking? I think they meant to write taking shelter beneath a desk. I managed to look out of a window and saw parked cars bouncing up and down from the sheer force of the earthquake. I had never experienced anything like it, he said in a recent interview at the headquarters of the plant's operator, the Tokyo Electric Power Company, TEPCO. Yoshizawa, who joined the company straight from university 30 years ago, was one of 6,000 workers on site that afternoon, a third of them in the restricted area near the plant's 6 reactors. His immediate thoughts were not with his wife and 2 daughters, who he assumed were safe at home in Yokohama, south of Tokyo, but with his colleagues, most of whom had families living near the plant. Once the shaking had subsided, Yoshizawa, a slight bespectacled man who has swapped his anti-radiation suit for a shirt and tie since his transfer last year to the TEPCO headquarters, where he is general manager of the nuclear fuel cycle department, headed to an earthquake-proof room where senior staff had gathered to discuss their response. It was there, less than an hour after the earthquake, the news began to circulate that the plant had been struck by a tsunami much bigger than 3-meter wave predicted in news bulletins, and far higher than the facility's protective seawall had been built to withstand. The evacuation building had no windows, so none of the men inside could see the tsunami as it ripped into the front of the reactor buildings, uprooting everything in its path and sweeping them away on a tide of filthy seawater. The next I heard was there was a problem with the electricity supply, and there were reports of debris floating in the sea, Yoshizawa says. But the reality was even more menacing. The tsunami had crippled the plant's backup power supply, plunging it into darkness. Worse still, it had deprived 4 of the 6 reactors of the power required to cool the nuclear fuel rods inside. If Yoshizawa could consider himself fortunate in those circumstances, it was that the 2 reactors under his control, Units 5 and 6, were already in cold shutdown for planned maintenance checks. But for as long as the power stayed off, nuclear fuel rods in the remaining 4 reactors would melt, causing a potentially catastrophic release of radioactive material that would reach far beyond Fukushima. And honestly, it has. The Prime Minister at the time, Naoto Kan, has since claimed TEPCO was poised to pull out of its employees, believing the situation had become irrevocable. Khan, who was converted to the anti-nuclear cause since leaving office in autumn 2011, told staff a withdrawal would spell the end of TEPCO. In his darkest moments, he would later admit he was making mental preparations for a possible evacuation of Greater Tokyo, an area of 35 million people. Disagreements over a possible withdrawal rumored to have taken place in the capital, never filtering through the men on the front line, according to Yoshizawa. Some among the vast network of TEPCO contractors and subcontractors ordered their employees to leave the plant. They were joined by other workers who lived in the communities in the path of the tsunami or which were imperiled by the reactor meltdowns. None of the workers had been able to communicate with their families. Some would return to find their homes had been swept away, but at no point was anyone forced to stay, Yoshizawa said. I never thought of leaving. I had to stay and get a grip on the situation. I wasn't thinking about my family, only about the other workers and how worried they must have been about their own families. We knew that we would not be replaced. No one was forced to stay, but those of us who remained knew that we would be there until the end. We knew that we were the only people capable of saving the planet. Our determination surpassed all other considerations. Yoshizawa says the hardest part of his job was sending junior colleagues into dangerous situations. The plant was frequently rocked by strong aftershocks, and the proximity of so much water to electrical equipment was an ever-present danger, as was the risk of acute radiation sickness. The day after the tsunami, the plant was rocked again when a hydrogen explosion ripped through the building housing reactor number 2. Within days, 2 more units would suffer similar explosions. Several workers were injured during the hydrogen explosions, and telling people to go back into dangerous areas was tough. But Yoshida never asked anyone to do the impossible. He knew that he would only put lives at risk. By taking that approach, he united us all behind our mission. Momentary relief came when Yoshizawa was moved to a disaster response headquarters 5 kilometers from the plant. While he was there, Fukushima crisis entered an even more dangerous phase, as 2 explosions in reactor buildings hampered efforts to direct a constant stream of coolant water at overheating fuel rods. After days of off-site, Yoshizawa and several TEPCO colleagues decided they had no choice but to return to Fukushima Daiichi. As they left the crisis headquarters, firefighters, police officers, soldiers, and nuclear officials lined up to salute them. We felt like members of the Tokkotai, which are the kamikaze pilots of the Second World War, in that we were prepared to sacrifice everything, he says. The people lined up outside said as much, but I could tell by their expressions that they didn't think we would return. By the time Yoshizawa arrived back at the plant, the international media were referring to him and his colleagues as the Fukushima 50. Though the actual number of workers probably ran into the hundreds, with each team working shifts shortened by their exposure to constantly spiking atmospheric radiation. I had heard the term Fukushima 50, but in fact there were many more people at the site, many more than I had imagined, and no one was panicking. Over the weeks that followed, the Fukushima 50 resigned themselves to a daily routine of long shifts, wrapped head to toe in protective clothing, and uncomfortable nights sleeping on the floor of a radiation-proof building. The scale of the disaster left the plant workers short of vital equipment. At one point, there were not enough protective suits to go around, and stocks of personal radiation monitors had been damaged in the tsunami. In normal circumstances, you order what you need from outside, but we were in the middle of a nuclear evacuation. Japan was the scene of a major disaster, so no one could come near the plant, Yoshizawa said. The few supplies we did have we got ourselves. Initially, the men survived on a diet of biscuits and other dried food. Deliveries of emergency supplies were out of the question while soldiers were still pulling bodies from the tsunami debris and getting aid to hundreds of thousands of survivors. The water shortage meant the Fukushima 50 were denied even bowls of warming instant noodles. So this article is very long. I just wanted to review this because they recently had another one. Fortunately, so far, they have not had a tsunami warning like the last time. But I really want to point out to this part of the story because it's a forgotten story, man. Like, these dudes knew in their mind, in their heart, and in their spirit that they had to protect Japan. They knew. And they did the best they could with whatever resources they had. But it was the spirit that they had that I want to magnify here. I want to magnify the spirit of these people. Okay, I'm not trying to say that Americans are not like this, because we do have Americans that are exactly the same. Very patriotic people in this country. I happen to be one of them, and I am willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for this country in order to preserve America and the future of America, and to also preserve the future of my children and other children out there. But to have this, this thought in your head about this is it. This is it. Like, there's no escaping. I'm not gonna live. Having to be put in this situation where they think they're not going to live in order for them to preserve. That's what I want to magnify here. That's exactly what I want to magnify here. And also to inform you guys that there was an earthquake in Fukushima again. Because we could be affected by that as well, from whatever leftover stuff that still comes out of the reactors over there. We could still get affected by that. But it's one thing that I've learned about the Japanese people. These are the most resilient people. They are the most resilient people that I've ever known in my life. So during this crisis, right? And I was watching Japanese news because I have my wife, she's Japanese. So I know the culture very well. I've known the culture very well for a long time. Even before I met my wife, I was all into the Japanese culture. But here's a prime example of one thing that I saw during this time, because I was concerned about what happened, being that I still have family out there too. Luckily, nowhere near Fukushima, but nevertheless, I still have family out there who are still affected by the earthquake. So when I was watching the news after this incident with in 2011, this is what blew my mind. And this is one thing that is different from America. Okay? And this is what I'm about to tell you is one of the reasons why I love the Japanese culture. when they were going through this crisis, and it made me tear up, when Japanese people were going through this crisis, many grocery stores, many convenience stores out there supplied free food to the people, and people were lined up. They weren't looting. They were lined up. And the store owners would tell these people, just pay whenever you can. And it's almost as if everybody came together to help each other out. And nobody got out of line. Everybody lined up. Nobody looted for food. And that blew my mind. That brought a tear to my eye. Because having to go through that hell that they went through back in 2011, and then the store owners would even help their own community out and tell them, you pay me whenever you can. And the self-control of the people out there, they did not even loot stores. That tells me a lot about their culture. You would not see that here, unfortunately. I mean, we've seen it last year. We've seen what happened last year with these riots that went on for stupid reasons. For something that I, in my opinion, don't think was noteworthy of having a riot for. Because honestly, if you're really going to say that there's racism out there, then why do we have so many multimillionaire athletes that are of color? Why? Don't give me this BS about, oh, you're oppressing the colored people. No. There have been so much opportunities for people of color here. Most of our athletes are of color, right? A lot of people in the entertainment industry are of color. They make so much money. And then we have our military personnel. We have people who go out overseas and fight battles. Some of them come back. Some of them not even come. They come back with not even a complete body in them, and they don't even get paid close to what these celebrities and athletes get paid. But yet they have the tenacity to say all these things about racism this, racism that. Give me a break. Give me a break. And no, I am not white. I am of color as well. So don't tell me that. That's just being lazy, and that's just making an excuse for you not wanting to get up and do something for yourself. But the comparison between the Japanese people and the American people in a situation like that told me a lot. And I think Americans, we need to strive to become like that. In disasters, yes, we always lend a helping hand to each other, but there are so many people out there who would loot in a minute. You don't even have big companies saying, these big corporations saying to these people, or even donating food to the people who need them. You donate them to other countries, but you don't look out for your own people here in this country? It baffles me. It really does. And I know I veered off to a very different end of this. And I was just trying to magnify the Fukushima 50. But even that patriotism for their own country, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of people who love this country as much as I do. and would give their life for it. I know that there are. But man, does the TV magnify a lot of stupidity out there. Sometimes it makes me feel like they're the majority. Because we're constantly being bombarded by the media who's trying to paint a certain agenda to show the world how stupid we are. I'm upset. And this is why I think independent people like myself with podcasts, or even people who do the news, independent journalists, I think this is what's needed. We need people who are not financially connected to corporations that have a certain agenda to push. The only agenda I have to push is truth. My truth might not be the same truth as yours, but we're both striving to search for what the truth is without any kind of bending of a story. My thoughts are my thoughts, and I'd like to hear other thoughts, because that's how we all grow, right? We have discussions, whether we agree or disagree with each other. We try to find like even ground. We try to make things work that don't work. But I just wanted to share that with you about the Fukushima 50. Not to mention, they came out with a movie last year in June called the Fukushima 50. I haven't seen that film yet. I would love to watch it, because I think these guys need credit for what they did. And it wasn't just for Japan. It was for the whole world, to be honest. It was for the whole world. It just happened to happen over there in Fukushima, Japan. So that's my show for tonight. And I know I was all over the place. But, that's what we do here. We talk about different things. We go all over the place. But it would be really nice to as Americans to kind of strive for that. When we don't have to, when we can pick each other up and not have to loot to feed ourselves or anything like that. That was a very impressive thing that I saw back in 2011. That really was. I had high regard for Japanese people, but when I saw that gave me more respect for them, as far as how Japanese are. They're very resilient people. They are very good at coming together and rebuilding things that are destroyed. And yes, it's unfortunate that they go through an atomic bomb, and again with radiation with the Fukushima Daiichi plant. But honestly, these people are the most resilient people that I know, as a group, as a country, and as a group. They stick together and they pick each other up. And I know America, I want to think that America is the same way. But the media doesn't portray that. And that's very sad. Because there are many Americans out there that are very good people. I wish I could say the majority, but I don't know. I really don't know. Because the media pushes out so much stuff that make you think differently. But even with everyday contact with people around here too, you can tell if they're good, you can tell if they're bad. But it would be nice, it would be very nice if we as Americans came together like that and picked each other up. It would be very beautiful. I hope that there is a lesson to be learned after this show. That we can strive to be like the Japanese people. And I'm not trying to make comparisons here, But I am just explaining what I saw with my eyes. I did a comparison with the situation that they had back in 2011, and then I compared it to the situation that happened last year here in America, throughout the whole country. So I want to leave everybody with that thought. And I really want people to come together and pick each other up. These are the greatest times to do independent journalism, do some podcasting, do it. We need it more than ever because we need more truth tellers out there. We need people to spread the truth. Our views may be different, yes, but at least there's some type of truth that we're trying to push out there. So, as I say at the end of every show, with that being said,
the bar is now closed.
I can't help but wonder if I'm under a spell. It's more than a passing notion. I've never fallen with such devotion. I can't help but wonder if it's only a dream. Am I naive or can I believe that things are really as they seem? Can anyone explain how to understand what's true? I know I just can't tame it. Whenever I'm with you, I can't help but wonder if you wonder about me. 'Cause lately I can't help but wonder how wonderful this might be. Can anyone explain it? How to understand what's true? I know I just can't take it. whenever I'm with you. I can't help but wonder if you wonder about me. 'Cause lately I can't help but wonder how wonderful this might be. 'Cause lately I can't help but wonder